This is the Flowerevolution series, My Life in Flowers. I'm going to share a little bit from the book that I wrote. I find that people are most interested in asking me about my personal story. How did you get into this? How did you start working with flowers? How did you build a business around this? And so in this series, I'm going to share a little bit about the personal stories that led up to this whole adventure. I'm going to start with when I was growing up. So when I was a little kid, I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My mom had beautiful gardens. We lived right in Minneapolis on 53rd and Emerson. And our yard was full of so many beautiful flowers like bleeding heart and lily of the valley, giant peonies that were felt like the size of my head, fuchsia. And there was this giant pine tree in the front yard, and I would climb up its big limbs as far as I could climb. And there was so much sap coming out. It was so sticky, and I would have to figure out how to get all that sap out of my hands. So my mother had water hyacinths in a huge barrel, and so I would peer into the water and see all these crazy looking water plants. So my mother really instilled in me the beauty and the kind of adventure and miraculousness of all these beautiful flowers. And then I would run up and down the alleyways, and we'd see wild columbine coming out, in between houses or in the weeds, and dandelion. When I was about 7 years old, we moved to Michigan, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, to the tiniest little town called St. Ignace, right in between the two peninsulas. And wow, there was a totally different experience, much more isolated. I was one of 3 houses that were together in this little place right on Lake Michigan. In the mornings when I would wait for the school bus, it would be pitch black, dark in the wintertime, and I would suit up in all my winter clothes and wait for the bus to come. And there was a different element around nature. It was more solitary, and you could climb out onto the frozen lake in winter, and there would be these beautiful ice caves that you could spend time in. There were also beautiful sand dunes, and the flowers. Oh my gosh, I would go for walks with my mother, and we would find these amazing lady's slipper orchids. We would pick wild blueberries. We'd go hunt for wild morel mushrooms and then fry them up in butter. And there were trilliums. If you're familiar with trilliums, it looks like somebody just spread popcorn across the floor. This was about the time that my mom would take me through the woods on little hikes, and she would repeat some plant names to me and point things out, like wintergreen, right? You break the leaf open and you smell it, and it smells like wintergreen. That's how I learned the names of some flowers. Early meadow rue, that was one of my favorites because it looks like this, beautiful lacy leaf pattern. I know that each one of us has the inner child, right? We all have some sort of experience with flowers. Maybe you grew up in the city. Maybe you had limited access to flowers, but you still have some kind of experience that really awoke the sense of miraculousness of nature in you. When we were kids, we had such a more tactile experience, right? If you were around wild honeysuckles, maybe you were sucking the nectar out of the bulbs, or dandelions when they go to seed and blowing all the seeds, or maybe you were rubbing the dandelions on your face to see if you like butter or not, something like that. So it was this whole tactile world that we were in the trenches and experiencing. Did you know that your favorite flowers, the ones that you think of first as emblematic of your childhood, actually tell you something about your strengths and your greatest gifts and how you bring those into the world? The book is full of QR codes with all kinds of exercises. And so this particular one for this chapter talks about your flower guides and how those were instrumental in bringing your gifts out into the world.